We are on Daf Yud Amud Bet Yud Aleph. I'm sorry, Yud Aleph Amud Aleph at the new Mishnah. That's 11A-3 in the Art Scroll English edition. And here we go. Okay, so far, last Mishnah, last few Gemaras that we dealt with stuff that a person cannot do or shouldn't do before the time to pray Mincha. So this Mishnah starts off about Shabbat again. Certain things that to take precaution with on Shabbat or before Shabbat. Okay, so let us begin the Mishnah. Lo yitzeh hahayat b'machto samuch lachashecha. The tailor should not go out with his needle close to nightfall. Okay, samuch lachashecha. Most understand that to be samuch l'shkia, half hour before sunset. Because maybe he'll take it out and Shema Yishkach v'yetze. He will take it out and then he'll forget that he has it in his hand and it'll become Shabbat and he's carrying his needle. V'lo ha-lavlar b'kumaso, and neither a scribe with his quill. Because, again, he might take it out and he might forget that he's carrying it and he'll carry on Shabbat. There's no Erev. So, therefore, half hour before Shkiyam, already you cannot take these things out. So Rabbi Akiva Eger notes the first case was about a needle. Second case about a quill. What's the chiddush of the Mishnah? So Rabbi Akiva Eger says the chiddush is that the needle is very small and the quill is quite big, and yet both of them the gezerah is not to take it out. And there the Mishnah Berurah says that any chayfetz person should not take it out in his hand half hour before Shkiyah. Continues the Mishnah. The law yifaleh et kelav. A person cannot delouse his garments. He cannot start cleaning it from lice on Shabbat. We're going to see the case in the Mishnah, in the Gemara later, not today. The law yikra la'or haner, and you should not read by the light of the lamp. Issue is the light might start to flicker. You might move the lamp in order to make it brighter, and that will be a problem on the malacha of making fire or kindling fire or making the fire bigger, ma'aver. So therefore you cannot read by the or haner. The hazan of the shul, the hazan, although today we say hazan as the singer, the guy who's the shiach tzibur, hazan in the times of the Talmud was not the guy who sang. He was the Jose, the sexton, the gabbai, the shamish of the shul, who took care of the needs of the shul. So if the gabbai didn't know which parasha on Shabbat morning will be, and he knows he has to give out the aliyot, and he has to figure it out. So back then, the Friday night, the kids used to come to the shul and they used to learn the parasha. So the Mishnah says that you're not allowed to read from the Or Haner, right? Be'emet amru, ha'hazan ro'eh hechanti likot korin, avu lo kura. The truth is, this halakha, they can't read the Or lamp, has a clear distinction that if it's the hazan, he just wants to glance at the kids' books to see which parasha they're learning, that would be allowed. But he's not allowed to read from that lamp. Another way to understand is he's the teacher and he needs to prepare the lesson. So he can look in the book to see the chapters, like where it starts, where it ends, but he cannot read it to use it to read. So the question everyone asks, what about the children? The children are reading from it, right? The children are there and they're reading from it. He's either glancing on them or so. Why is that not a problem? Some Mefarshim explain. Number one, Ema Rabbeim Aleim. Their rabbis' fear is upon them. They don't dare get up and try to, what's it called? They don't get up and try to touch the lamp when their rabbi's there, right? It's not like today's teachers can do whatever they want. Back in the day, there was a fear upon them. They wouldn't do that. Another answer is the kids would never do that because the kids want to get out of school. They don't want to learn there, and they're waiting for that lamp to go out. So they're not going to try to make it burn brighter. They don't want to learn. So therefore, we don't have a worry that they will make it burn brighter. And ends off the Mishnah, Kayotze bo, similar to this, another case of being careful, harchakam, is the case of lo yachal hazav im hazava. A zav may not eat together with a zava. So a zav is a man who has a gonorrheal type of emission, and depending on how many types he has in his emission, he would be a different level of tuma. After 3 times, he has to bring a korban. So too, a zava is a woman who has an admission, a flow outside of the time expected for her nida flow. A zav and a zava, if they were together in having relations, it would be punishable by karet. So as such, Hachamim said, zav and zava, they're not allowed to eat together. Obviously, they have to have some sort of hecker in between them, like we do for nida. In fact, Rashi actually says, "Lo yachol hazav im hazava, v'chol shechein tahar im hazava." Definitely a tahar, someone who's tahar with a zava. Now we treat all our nidot today as zava gedolah, and that's why they have to wait 7 clean days, and that's why they have to go to the mikvah and all that. We treat them as a zava gedolah. So as such, even if a zav whose tamei cannot be eating on the same table with a tame'a wife who is zava, so for sure someone who is tahor would not sit on the same table with someone who is tameh unless they put a hecker in between. And the bigger hidush here is that a zav, when a man has a gonorrheal emission, having relations is painful, right? And yet still we have to take precautions since it might lead to sin. Okay, now we're in the Gemara, and the Gemara is going to bring us another Mishnah from Mesechet Eruvin. Tenan hatam lo ya'amod adam b'reshut yachid v'yishteh b'reshut rabim. Person should not be standing in the one reshut and drink from another reshut. So he's in reshut yachid, and the water is in reshut rabim. He should not drink it like that. B'reshut rabim v'yishteh b'reshut yachid, nor should he stand in reshut rabim and drink from reshut yachid. Why? Our fear is he might bring the cup into the domain in which he is standing, and then he would have affected a hotza'ah, a hachnasa. So aval imhichnes rosha v'rubel makom shushayda. But if he puts his head and most of his body into the place where the water is, then mutar, then it would be permissible. Because in this position, he's unlikely to forget and transfer the cup to where he is standing. And the Mishnah in Eruvin ended v'chen bagat. And so too with the wine press. What does this mean? We'll see in a moment. Amar Ibayalahu. So now the question that is asked on this Mishnah in Eruvin. Carmelit Mai. What's the story if it is a Carmelit? Meaning a Carmelit is a Reshut Rabim Derabanan. It's a rabbinical public domain. So if the guy is standing in Reshut Yachid and the water is in the Carmelit, or he's standing in the Carmelit and the water is in Reshut Yachid, or Reshut Rabim, whichever way, it's a Carmelit is one of the areas that the stuff is either he or the water is in the Carmelit. Can he take the water like that, or does he have to put his head and most of his body in there? So Amar Abaye says, he. What do you mean? It's the exact same thing. It's one reshut, another reshut, and you're not allowed to do it on Shabbat. So therefore, there's a gezerah. Rav says, no. He gufa gezerah. The whole din of Carmelit is already a gezerah. Really, a Carmelit is a makom patur. You're allowed to take stuff in and out from it. Chachamim said it looks too much like Rishus Rabbim. Let's make it Rishus Rabbim D'Rabbanan. So it's already a gezerah. Who he gufa gezerah. Va'anan nikum v'nigzor gezerah l'gezerah. Are we going to get up and make another gezerah on a gezerah, another decree on another decree? I mean, you made a Carmelit, that's already a decree, and now you're going to come and make another decree that if you're standing in one place, you shouldn't drink from a Carmelit. That's a gezerah. We don't usually do gezerah for the Rabbanan. So Rav says, why do we do that? Now, what's Abaye's answer? Abaye said we do make gezerah even for a Carmelit. So maybe we can learn, like we said before, about the malacha of hotza'ah. Malacha of hotza'ah is a malacha gerua. It's an inferior malacha. People don't see some substantial change in it. So therefore, it's considered inferior malacha, and people don't really care about it, and it's also done frequently. And so maybe Abaye felt, in order to keep the malacha of hotza'ah in place, we need to make this gezerah al gezerah. But Rabbi goes with the pshat that, no, we don't make gezerah al gezerah, and that actually is the halacha l'maisa. The Shulchan Aruch brings down that we don't make gezerah al gezerah, and therefore, if a person is standing in a Carmelit, and he wants to drink from Shulchan Aruch, he doesn't have to put his whole head and body into the other area, because we hold there's no gezerah al gezerah. Amar Abaye. Now, Abaye says, let me bring you proof, for my opinion, that you do make gezerah over here in this malacha of hotza'ah. But not even, how do I know this? Because the Mishnah ended off v'chein bagat. So too with the wine press. My God, what type of wine press is this? If it's a private domain, Tanina, we already learned it. Tanina, it says, don't take So what does the Chen begat? A lav karmelit. The Mishnah says, got to say karmelit. And to tell you that you cannot do the same thing unless you put Rosha Varov Gufo into the other domain where the water is. Now, Rava says, listen, it doesn't say, if you want to say karmelit, it should say karmelit, right? So Rava says, no. This V'chein Begat is not for this case of drinking water from another Rishut on Shabbat. Rather, V'chein Begat L'inyan Ma'aser. It has to do for the subject of Ma'aser. Okay, so brief explanation over here, brief introduction to the Ma'aser. Ma'aser is the tithe, right? You have to give Trumat Maserot. Now, food that has not been yet given Trumat Maserot. On a biblical level, as long as it's in the field and not Gmar Malacha yet, and not completed its work of being done and processed and ready to go, a person is allowed to eat from it as much as he wants in the field, as long as it hasn't been processed yet to its final completion of process. And every produce, wheat, barley, everything has its own gemar malacha, its own completion of the work. So as long as it's still in the field, according to a biblical level, you're allowed to eat from it. Chachamim come and said, no, you can't do that. As long as you're eating it as a snack while it's in the field, that's fine. But if you're eating it as a keva, sudat keva, like a fixed meal, then you can't. Then you can't. Sudat arai, like a snack, you're allowed to eat it in the field while you're working with it. But when it's already, even if it's in the field, but you're eating it as a sudat keva, as an established meal, then you would not be able to eat from that. So this is what this case is talking about. The guy has wine in his wine press. It's still in the wine press. It's not Gemar Malacha. So the only way you're able to drink it is if you are drinking it as a snack, right? And not as a Sudat Keva, and not if it's Gemar Malacha. You can't finish the Malacha for it, right? Because once you finish Malacha, again, biblically, you can't drink it until you get Tumat Masot. So here we go. The Tanan. Shotin al Hagat. You can drink over the wine press. Ben ala Hamin, Ben ala Tonin, upatur. Whether you put it into it hot water or cold water, upatur, and you'll be patur, and it's okay to drink from it. Be me'er. This is the word that would be me'er. Rabbi Meir says, as long as I'm drinking it in the gat, I'm drinking it in the wine press, that's considered a snack. Being in the wine press is not a gemar malacha. It's considered a snack. Drink over there. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Tzadok B'Chayev. Rabbi Tzadok says no, you cannot drink it in the wine press. Which case? The case of pouring, as it said, of diluting it with either cold or hot water. Okay, in order to drink wine, you have to dilute it. Today we get diluted wine, but back in the day they had actual concentrated wine, and you have to dilute it to drink it. So, think about it. Technically, putting in the water is a gemar malacha. It finishes the produce for that wine because now it's in its final stage. So as such, says Rabbi Elazar Tzadok, that if you put water in there, it's over. It's gemar malacha, and you can't drink it. You can't drink it as a snack. The chacham, we can't drink it at all. They definitely don't understand. The chacham said no, they're mechalik. Al hachamin hayav. If it's hot water, you're hayav. You can't drink it. But if it's sonen, then you're allowed to drink it as a sudat arai. Why? Because they put cold water into one cup with a little bit of wine, and you throw it all into the barrel. Nothing will happen to the barrel. It's fine. Hot water, unfortunately, not the same thing. It ruins the thing, and if you put it back in the barrel, it's going to ruin everything. So therefore, it's considered a gemar malacha. So we see what the chen begat is talking about maaser, says Rava, not about a karmelit in this case of drinking the water from one domain and another domain. So therefore, via your pshat doesn't work out. So now the Gemara wants to see if it's true that we never make exera al exera. Exera derabanan on exera derabanan. The Gemara says, our Mishnah said, Lo yetzeh hayat b'machto samuch l'chashicha. You should not take out a needle. A tailor should not take out a needle before nightfall. Shema yishkach v'yetzeh, because maybe he'll forget and he'll continue to carry it. My lad lo bivigdo. Is it not where the needle is pinned in his garment? So he's not carrying it out in the regular way. Usually, in order to be hayav hatat, you have to be carrying it in the regular way, which is in your hand. He's carrying it on his clothing, as a tailor sometimes carries it. So therefore, that's the rabbanan carrying it that way. And then you told me don't take it out a half hour before. That's another rabbanan. You have two rabbanans. So you see, it does exist. So Gemara says, "Lo, no, the knuckle day." Our Mishnah talking about when he's carrying it in his hand, carrying it in your hand. That's a doraita. So it's only one gezerah. Okay, Tashma. A tailor will not go out with his needle pinned to his garment, and that's what the Braita said. My lab erev Shabbat is it not erev Shabbat? It says you cannot go out with it, so it's gzera, which is love. Ki tanya hahi b'Shabbat. When it says you can't go out with the needle in your pin, that's talking about on Shabbat. So it's only one gezera. Don't take out the Rabbanan case of putting the needle in your shirt. So think about Tanya, but we have another Braita that says. Lo yetzeh hayav b'machto hatchuva b'bigdo. A tailor may not go out with his needle pinned to his garment. Be'ero Shabbat on the eve of Shabbat, shortly before nightfall. So here you see, here you have gezerah. It's in his shirt, and it is before nightfall. So where it says, yes, it's true. That's what the Braita says. But who is the author of this brasha of Braita? Ha mani. This is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda has a shita. The shita is derech uman derech emunato hayav. Sometimes a professional wears something that they carry something in a special way. That's the way their profession carries it. Like umashal, we talked about here the tailor. The tailor sometimes carries it in his shirt, right? And they do it also for advertisement, so people know that they're a tailor. A doctor carries a stethoscope over his neck. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, if a professional is carrying it in his profession's way of usually carrying it, that would be considered a regular carry, and therefore it's a doraita. And if they did it, it's hayam hatat. So therefore, this braita that said on erev Shabbat you should not go out with the tailor's needle in the tailor clothing, that is according to Yehuda, because he holds that that's a doraita issue, and therefore there's only one gezerah of don't go out with it before Shabbat. So let's see. Hamani Yehuda the Amr Uman derech emunato hayam. The Tanya lo yetzeh hayam mechtorot chuval l'bigdo. A tailor may not go out with his needle pinned to his garment. V'lo nagar b'kesam shabos no, nor a carpenter, person who works with wood, with his ruler behind his ear. V'lo sorek b'mishichat shabos no, nor a fuller with his cord behind his ear, someone who deals with like wool. V'lo gardi b'ira shabos no, nor a weaver with his stopper behind his ear, another tool of his instrument for his work. V'lo tzabah b'dugma shebetzavaro, and nor a dyer with his samples of dyes that are on his shoulder. V'lo shulchani b'dinar shabos no, nor a money changer with a dinar behind his ear. But if he goes out, it's only rabbinic. They very mad. This is very mad. No. So therefore, that braita goes according to Yehuda, and it's gzera only on a deoraita according to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to show us two cases, two braitot that seem to be soter each other, contradict each other, and we have to kind of figure out what's going on over here. We have one braita that says, Lo yitzeh hazav bechiso. A zav cannot go out with his pouch. Okay, usually you're allowed to wear clothing, right? No problem. However, this guy is wearing a pouch. Its purpose is not to protect the body like clothing, but it's to either catch his emissions, his gonorrheal emissions, so he'll know if he is a small zav or a big zav. Also, in order maybe to protect his clothing, right? In order to protect his clothing and not to protect his body. And it might be an issue of hotza'ah then, because clothing, which is to protect the body, is not hotza'ah, issue of hotza'ah. But to protect the clothing, or to protect, what's it called, or to catch the mission to know if he's a zav or a small zav or a big zav, how many times he had it, maybe that's not clothing. Right? So let's take a look. Lo yetzer hazav b'chisa. A zav may not go out on Shabbat with his pouch. Ve'im yatsa, if he goes out, pater abalasim. It's only a rabbinic issue. The Tana idach, another Braita taught, lo yetzer, ve'im yatsa, hayav hatat. A zav may not go out on Shabbat, but if he did, he's hayav hatat. It's a doraita issue. So which one is it? Is it Rabbanan or doraita? So Amar Rav Yosef, lo kashya. How do you Meir? How do Yehuda? It depends. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Huda said that if it's your profession's way of doing it, so then you be hayab. So here, the zav, all the zavim, they wear this pouch, and as such, it would be considered their way of wearing it, and it'll be a doraita. According to Meir, no. According to Meir, it's part of Avalasa. It's rabbinic. It's not a normal way of wearing it. Maybe that's the way to answer it, right? Obviously, that's not the answer because then the Gemara wouldn't continue. So Omar Le Abaya. So Abaya said, 1 second. Amor deshmatele b'midi delab hainu orcha b'midi dahainu orcha misha matele. 1 second. Even for a tailor, most tailors don't walk around with a needle in their shirt the entire time, or the doctor doesn't walk around with the stethoscope down his arm, neck the entire time. Sometimes for their profession, they wear it that way, but even they carry it regularly. However, by a Zav, he's always wearing this pouch on his male member because he needs to catch the emissions, whether to know or to protect. So even according to Meir, who says usually if Taylor carries it this way, it's still Pater L'Asr, it's still rabbinic, here he would say it is D'Oraita. If he didn't say this, let it be Meir, because if he won't say that, then an amateur is working on wood and he makes a cut in the hole in the wood. We're going to say, oh, no, he didn't do the malacha completely because he's an amateur, doesn't know what he's doing. No, he did the malacha. So same thing here. He's wearing it, and he's wearing it the entire time. That's it. Rameir agrees that if a person does something in a way that is normal for him, although it's not the standard way, he is liable. Se'ela Omer Rav Hamnuna. Like Kasha, Kam Bezav Baal Shteriot, Kam Bezav Baal Sheloshriot. It all depends why he's wearing the pouch. If he's wearing it 2 times, if he already had Zav 2 times, and if he's going to have it a 3rd time, then he's going to, have to bring a korban. So then he's wearing it and normal, and he needs it, and it's significant. So therefore, he is Hayab Hatat. But when he's wearing it after 3 times, so then he doesn't need this pouch, and it's not considered important, and it's not considered normal. It's considered unusual at this point, and as such, it would be pater aval aser. Where says Maishna zav bal shteriot techayev devayle lebedika zav bal shalosh nami devayle lisfira. 1 second. The whole reason why you're saying it's still significant and it's still normal to wear when he had only 2 times, because he needs to see if he has a 3rd time. The same thing if you already had 3 times, because in order for a Zav to become Tahar, he has to count 7 clean days. And in order to tell if you have 7 clean days is if you have this pouch to make sure no other emissions are happening. So the Gemara says, you're right. Actually, we're talking about that day that he already had the 3rd emission. So on that day itself, let's say it was Saturday morning, and he had the 3rd emission. So now the rest of the day, he doesn't need to wear it because it won't make a difference. It's not going to help with the count, and I don't really need it anymore. So therefore, that will be the pater of l'asr. Versus 1 second. You know why he's still wearing it, and it's significant for him? Because he doesn't want his clothing to get ruined. He doesn't want the gonorrheal emission coming out and everything else. So I'm gonna say that. So should be hayab. There's no pater of l'asr. I'm gonna say that. You know what it's going according to? Kol atzulei tinuf lo kachashib. Anything that you do to protect something from becoming dirty is not considered significant. If someone put a plate or a bowl facing the wall, if he wanted the rain to come down and wash the plate, then you have kiyutan. But if he did it in order to protect the wall, eno kiyutan. All right, kirutan, kiiten. Basically, in order for produce to become tameh, it has to have hechsher. It has to get wet by 7 liquids, including water. But it says chiyutan, and then it also read kiiten. It means it has to be placed on it. It happen by itself, but it has to be placed in a way that it's like someone placed the water on it. Meaning that the person who owns the produce is happy that the water is going. He's happy with that water. Chiyutan. Okay, so if I put the plate against the wall and I want the plate to get washed, I'm happy with the water that's going on the plate. Therefore, if that water now goes on the produce now could become tameh. But if I put the plate against the wall in order to protect that section of the wall, so then I don't want the water. at all. I'm happy with that water at all. Therefore, it cannot make the produce, that water that then falls on the produce, cannot make it be able to get tuma. And therefore, we see if you did it, what's it called? Just to protect it from dirt, it's not considered significant, not considered happy with it, not considered significant, and therefore it's pater of a lasser on Shabbat. Whereas me dummy, these cases even comparable. You can't compare these two cases. There, when I put the plate against the wall, I don't care about the water at all. I just want to protect the wall. Here, I do care about this liquid that comes out of the male member during this gonorrheal type of emission, because I don't want it to go everywhere. I want to keep it in one place. So I want this what's it called, liquid to remain there. If anything, you can compare it to the seifa, which is the end case. There is a leak. There is a leak, and you put a ball to catch the leak. If water falls into the bowl and then splashes out, that's not considered significant. I'm not happy with it. I don't want it to splash out. But if the water goes into the bucket, it is kiyutan, and therefore that water can make produce tameh. Why? Because I'm happy that the water went into the bucket. It doesn't get everything else dirty. So I'm happy with that water. Same thing here. I'm happy that the gonorrheal emission goes into the pouch. So therefore it is hashiv, and therefore it is hayav hatat. So Ela, rather, finally, the answer, Abai Baravad Amr Tarbayu, Ha Rabbi Yehuda, the Ha Rabbi Shimon. It's actually Machoket Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda. And what are we talking about? Malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. Malacha that's not done for its own purpose, right? Usually, hotza'ah, I'm taking something out because I want to take it out from, and I want to get it to somewhere else. Malacha she'ena tzricha legufa is when I'm doing it for not that reason, right? I have a dead body in the house. I want to take it out, not because I want to take out the dead body to the other place, because I want to get it out of my house. I'm not doing it for the malacha. I'm doing it for because I want to get rid of it. Something not done in the way the malacha was done in the Mishkan. So here, the whole thing is the hotza'ah of this pouch. I'm not taking it out because I want to take it out. I'm doing this so it doesn't get dirty and stuff like that. And therefore, it's malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. It's definitely not the way it's done in the Mishkan. And therefore, it's machok Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds you're still hayav. So hayav hatat. That's why the writer said hayav hatat, because I'm taking it out. Malacha she'ena tzricha legufa. According to Yehuda, hayav hatat. That's the way the Rambam paskins as well. Most Rishonim, and here the Rabbi Shimon tells us, no, malacha she'ena tzricha legufa, patur of alaser. It's patur on a biblical level. You have to be hatat, but it is still asur. So that writer that said a person who goes out with a pouch is, according to Rabbi Shimon, that it's malacha she'ena tzricha legufa, and therefore it is patur aval asur. Most, I believe that we don't hold like the Rambam on this, and we hold the malacha she'ena tzricha legufa like Rabbi Shimon, and it is patur aval asur. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
There is no medical exemption for this type of case?
What do you mean?
Like if he's sick and he's leaking or whatever, doesn't it should be allowed under the medical condition to carry?
No, apparently not. Apparently in the times anymore, no. You cannot go out without an Erev.
It's not an honest situation because he's sick.
Okay, you're sick. If you take care of yourself, stay at home. Yeah. Someone did show me that the poskim now, they ask the same question regarding a lady who needs pads, right? So she's seeing her flow, a menstrual cycle, and she's seeing a flow, and there's no eruv. Can she walk outside with those pads to absorb? And this is actually the shiloh. So someone is saying, no, it's not just to protect, and it's not just to absorb. But it's acting like clothing to protect her body from the elements, maybe protecting her from busha. There is talks amongst the poskim. I'm not going to paskin on that halakha because I have not looked into it, but I could hear tooth stadim on it. In most cases, it really doesn't apply nowadays because most communities that we live in have an eruv. But if you go to a place there's no eruv, you go away for Shabbos to some place and there's no eruv, you would have to look into it. I can try to attempt to look into it later, but that is a very, very good question. Someone showed me again there were poskim who were makel here. I don't know the exact reasoning behind it. I have to go in to look at it, and figure it out from there. Well, let's finish up the Gemara for today. Let's get up to the two dots. Tana the very small Yatsa Adam b'tefillin be'erev Shabbos imchashecha. A person can walk out with tefillin erev Shabbat imchashecha. Tefillin's on his head, on his arm. He can walk out with it on Shabbat. You don't have to be worried about carrying it afterwards. Ma ta'ama. By the way, wearing it's not going to be considered carrying. Maybe taking it off and this and that. You might take it off somewhere else. Okay. Ma ta'ama. What is the reason? Keeping the Amar of Rabbi Bar Huna. Hayam Adam lemishamesh b'tefillin kol sha'ah v'sha'ah. Because the whole time a person is wearing tefillin, he has to keep touching it. He has to keep keeping his mind in it. Where are we learning from? From the tzitz. Just like the tzitz only has one name of Hashem, Amr Torah, Vayam Mitzchot should be on your forehead always, meaning you shouldn't forget about it. Tefillin sheyesh behen askarot harbe. Tefillin that has many, many names of Hashem inside the tefillin. Hadkama v'kama. How much more so you have to keep your mind to it. Therefore, the mitzvah is always to keep touching your tefillin shel rosh, right? Tefillin shel yad. And there's places in the tefillah you're supposed to touch it. Hilkach mikar dachir lehu. Therefore, he'll not forget about his tefillin and come to do hotza'ah with it because he's always touching it. He knows he has it, and he'll make sure to put it away and do whatever he needs to before Shabbat. His mind is on it. It's not like the needle of the kumus where he'll forget about it that it's in his hand. Tanya, Chanino Omer, Chayv Adam, L'mishamesh bevigdo erev Shabbat mechashechat. Before Shabbat, person has to go through his clothing to make sure there's nothing in there. Even if there's an eruv, I would say, because you still have money and other things. Sometimes you go to a wedding and you're wearing your suit, something like that, and you have money in there, right? So therefore, what's it called? Make sure to go through your clothing. I'm Rav Yosef, Hilchata Rabati the Shabbat. This is a huge law for Shabbat, an important rule for Shabbat. Make sure to go through your Shabbat clothing before going outside. And this way, a person will prevent hotza'ah, prevent going with muksa in his clothing. And this is where we're going to end off for today. I will try looking into the sanitary pads as they're Nagea Lamaisa if the person is in a place without an ear.
Page 12A2.
We ended on, 12A2. Correct.
Thank you.
Yashikaya, Shavua Tov. Tada Rabba.